Well, do we have an interesting story? If you're not familiar already, I guess I'm going to walk you through it, and I'm going to give my take on what Zack Snyder said recently about, and as per Variety's headline here, Zack Snyder defends making Batman kill. I thought I'd walk through this and just give all I can give, and that is my honest perception on what Zack Snyder said on Joe Rogan's podcast. Because it has, and I know it may sound like I'm making a big dramatic deal out of this, but it has really, if you're in the Batman circles and fandom online, caught fire quite a bit. There are certainly things I agree with here. Let me just say that. But also other things where I'm like, okay, I don't think that's quite it. And I'm going to really try and explain everything thoroughly here, even with what he references with regards to The Dark Knight Returns. So Snyder started off by saying, that's a lifestyle choice for a lot of people. It's not like if I made a romantic comedy, the people who love, comic book movies, I love that they feel this passionately. In no way would I criticize that because I live the same life. For those guys, it's not just a movie. And so on some level, you have to acknowledge that this is their religion and they feel strongly about it. It's my religion too. So Snyder there is fully admitting that he or at least is trying to say that he understands where people basically might disagree. And Snyder said that he tends to get in trouble with comic book fans because I do take a deconstructivist point of view because I care. I want to take superheroes apart. And this is where it gets interesting. People are always like, Batman can't kill. So Batman can't kill is canon. And I'm like, okay. And this is what pissed people off. And I'm like, okay, well, the first thing I want to do when you say that is I want to see what happens. And, he giddily laughs because, he's basically saying, well, as soon as you say that, well, I want to do this. And, basically make Batman kill. So he goes, and they go, well, don't put him in a situation where he has to kill someone. I'm like, well, that's just like you're protecting your god in a weird way, right? You're making your god irrelevant if he can't be in that situation. He has to now deal with that, yeah? If he does do that, what does that mean? What does it tell you? Does he stand up to it? Can he survive that, right? As a god, as your god, can Batman survive that? So what I find interesting about what he says there is, I definitely agree with, at least the kind of avenue that he's exploring. Even though certain things like not killing to Batman, I'm one of those people, and I think this is kind of generally understood. It is quite intrinsic and integral to his character that he set a line that he wouldn't cross at the very beginning of his career. And this is all coming out of the very origin of, would I be any better than the very man or person who killed my parents if I was just going to go out there and break necks left, right, and center? I shouldn't need to explain this, even though we will be getting into this a little bit in this video. But I do like the idea of, and what Snyder is saying here, some people may say to him, well, don't put him in a situation where he has to kill someone. And he's saying, and this is where it's being taken to mean all kinds of different things from different people online, where he says, well, that's just like you're protecting your god in a weird way, right? I get what he's saying there. That could be really interesting to do, and I agree with that. I think entering Batman into this territory, which other stories have done, of which I will go into detail in a minute or two, is really rich material. But there's a difference of crossing the line, even if you want to enter that territory. So I do agree with what Snyder says there, to never let anything happen, right? It's kind of like weirdly protecting your god. And he refers to God, right? Because the whole comparison and analogy here to fans like us, it's almost like a religion, right? And he even admits himself it's like a religion for him. He lives and breathes it too. He feels strongly about this, so that's all that means. But when it comes to Batman killing, he goes on to say, an example of which I don't think I agree with his interpretation here, and I've seen many people agree with what Snyder's saying here, but I'm going to show you comic book panels to kind of prove the point as best as I can. So he goes on to say an example as to why Batman can kill and still be a hero, right? And still be Batman. That is the most fascinating and most focal point about this whole controversial thing that Snyder said, right? So in The Dark Knight Returns, there's a scene where, and I copied it kind of in Batman vs. Superman, where he grabs the M60, he busts through the wall, and the guy's like, in the comic book, he's got this kid. The mutant has this kid with a gun to his head, and he's like, I'll kill him. I swear I'll do it. And Batman says, I believe you. And he shoots him straight in the head because it's a no-win scenario. Now, I kind of take a little bit of issue with that, and I'll just get into that in just a second, but to continue on with what he says here quickly, they would say, don't do that to Batman. Don't put him in a no-win situation because we don't want to see him lose. We can't see him lose. He has to maintain this godlike status. That's the cool thing about Frank Miller. Frank Miller said, fuck it. You know, and so I get what Snyder is saying there. But I feel like it's all based on something which, you know, I'm half one step in with regards to, as I said, I think you can explore Batman in this topic of, oh shit, being faced with killing and what could that do to him. But he's deriving it from something that I don't really think happened the way he thought it happened in The Dark Knight Returns. Now, lots of people are liking to bring up comic book panels on Twitter, like one frame, and not really showing the rest of the context from The Dark Knight Returns. And some people are like, oh, do you really think that he didn't shoot? It's like, well, let me try and case this out to you and point out why Snyder's take there, or while I can't confirm that Batman, I guess, didn't kill in that moment in the comic, there's so many things going against it that I don't really think he did, believe it or not. So the issue is, although in that moment, yeah, he bursts through the wall, just like in BVS, he grabs the gun, and the mutant has a gun to this kid's head. He's like, I'm going to do it, and Batman fires the gun, and he's like, I believe you. And the kid is now safe, right? And in the comic panel, as you're seeing on screen, shows the mutant there with a bit of blood spatter against the wall and the bullet there. Now, this doesn't mean, believe it or not, I know you might be doubting me right now, but just bear with me that he killed him. And you may say to me quickly, but Boba, you're missing the point. The idea is that Snyder took that out of this, and that's still something that he wanted to explore. I know what you mean. We're going to get back onto that, but I just wanted to really get down to the source material here because I feel like that's something that's being taken out of context and loads of people are claiming it to be one thing. Look at this panel at this point of the story where he saves that kid, takes out a few mutants, and shoots this one mutant, right? It's very important. Although it's implied, or you could imply, that this mutant is dead, there's things that make me feel as though this isn't the case. Because literally afterwards, when Batman is faced with killing, or going up against, rather, the mutant leader, and he's looking at him through the Batmobile, he literally says, as you can see on screen right now, this is after the moment where he saves the child and fires the gun, and the mutant guy is there with blood spatter in the background. Killing the mutant leader would require me to cross a line I drew for myself 30 years ago. Now, can you please just begin to explain to me why Batman would state that if he had theoretically already crossed the line a few moments before when he had saved the child because that mutant had a gun to the kid's head and Batman shot and killed him? Why would he then just go up to the mutant leader, well, from a distance in the Batmobile, look at him in the scope, it has these rounds and where he could kill him, I guess, theoretically, and he's like, yeah, you know, this would require me to cross a line I drew for myself 30 years ago. Oh, oops, no, I actually did that like 5 minutes ago. Screw it, boom, kills the mutant leader. No, because he hasn't killed at this moment. So that's the first piece of evidence there. On top of that, ladies and gentlemen, he then, later on, as you know, in The Dark Knight Returns, goes on to fight the Joker. So the Joker in this fight stabs Batman. He feels it happen, and he's like, oh God, right? Oh, this ain't good. But he's in this moment, and he goes to snap the Joker's neck, but instead what he does is that he paralyzes him. I mean, you literally have him saying, with some witnesses saying, voices calling me a killer. I wish I were. He's literally saying, like, because, you know, it's Batman's, like, kind of thing, saying, you know, I kind of wish I was, but I wouldn't let myself be that. But you have these people running away, calling him a killer because it looks like he killed the Joker. But then, literally, the Joker says, I'm really very disappointed with you, my sweet. The moment was perfect, and you didn't have the nerve. Paralysis. Really? You know, Joker's kind of pissed off that he almost did it, but like paralysis? Really? Just an ounce or two more of pressure. And do I hear sirens? Yes, coming close. You won't get far, but then it doesn't matter if you do. They'll kill you for this. And why, if you didn't know this story already? Because, as he goes on to say, and they'll never know that you didn't have the nerve. I'll see you in hell. And then, with a devil's strength, he twists. So Joker, almost dead, like, because he could have easily have been saved. He would have just been paralyzed for the rest of his days, if you will. He snaps the rest of his neck, so he dies. And that's his last joke on Batman there, because to everyone else, to the witnesses, it looked like Batman killed him. They started running away, but he didn't. He was paralyzed. To the sirens coming, and when the police arrive, Joker will be dead, so it looks like Batman did kill him. And Joker is mocking him here because he says, and they'll never know that you didn't have the nerve to kill me. Batman didn't have the nerve to kill Joker. Batman literally didn't kill the mutant leader before this. He literally says that would cross a line I set for myself years and years ago. So you can see where I'm going with this. None of that makes any sense whatsoever. But if the mutant guy who held a gun to the kid's head would have been dead before that. Like, do you know what I mean? So the way I put that is just like Batman may have done like a pretty nasty ass flesh wound. Maybe the guy didn't think Batman would fire the gun. Maybe he shot him somewhere. But like, there's no headshot there. Like Snyder quite literally says he shot him in the head. There's a bullet in the wall, but there's no headshot. So do you see what I'm saying? So Snyder is basing that influence off of something that didn't happen, in my opinion. Now, you still may disagree with me. You may be like, well, Boba, I know he didn't kill the mutant leader, and I know he didn't kill the Joker, but he definitely killed that guy who held a gun to the kid's head because he had no other choice. Look, if that's what you want to believe, even though I think it doesn't make any ounce of sense if you follow what I've just said, then fair enough. And that's, what Snyder is going with here. Frank Miller said, F it, but it's just like, believe it or not, Frank Miller went pretty far in that comic and even challenged the idea of Batman snapping Joker's neck. But as Joker says, it's like Frank Miller's saying it himself. He still doesn't have the nerve, no matter how dark and grueling and worn this Batman also is in The Dark Knight Returns. So getting back to the meat of this conversation here, because that still isn't really the point of this whole topic. The topic is, can Batman go there with what Snyder is saying? And he's saying that you can go there. Now, I still disagree that, I don't think you should have Batman kill. Now, this may sound or put me in the category of what Snyder is very much so going on about here, of like protecting your God. Or as Snyder just says here, really, you're making your God irrelevant if he can't be in that situation. No, I think the opposite there. A lot of people have had issues with that line. The way it does read is like you're making Batman irrelevant if you can't ever put him in story situations of, oh crap, killing. It doesn't mean he has to, but, you could still put him in that position. This specific comment, I almost agree/disagree with, because I think the very thing that makes Batman relevant is that he maintained his moral code for the most part in most stories, right? So I don't think you're making him irrelevant if you don't have him kill, although I do think if you're too scared to do anything with Batman that challenges the very kind of ethics and principles and morals that he has, then I can see what he means by that point of, you're making your God irrelevant if he can't be in that situation. Now, should he fulfill and execute in that situation? No, I still don't think you should, but that's exactly what Snyder did in Batman vs. Superman. And my issue, personally, with what he was going for there is that I'm on board with the concept of what Snyder was going for in Batman vs. Superman. Even though I ultimately don't, really like gel with what happened, I respect the vision and the very thing that I agree with Snyder on here in terms of putting your character, who's not usually in that situation, in a situation that really makes it, oh God, you're walking a very fine line here, because you could alienate people, but you could also make something really rich with the story. Obviously, you had that moment of what Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne experienced with Man of Steel, this somewhat helplessness of being in that destruction in Metropolis from what Zod and Superman wrought, and just this overall obvious existential threat that this poses, this very sense of helplessness and watching this heat vision in the sky and everything almost, I guess you could say, projects Bruce into that night of helplessness that he felt when his parents died. The very helplessness that birthed this, anger that the world's never seen. I mean, maybe they have, but you get my point, to the point of propelling him to be Batman. Now, not only has he had that already in the past with his origin of Thomas and Martha Wayne dying, he's now had the second coming of helplessness, which is kind of further emboldened and compounded that anger. It's like another birth moment of Batman that compounds on the past, adding on top of the past 20 plus years of history as Batman and where he's lost Robin and everything like that in the DCEU. It ultimately, as I said, incurs this new emboldened Batman rage that he then turns and like sets his sights on Superman for. My issue is I feel like that would have been a much more compelling story because, you know, it's still there. Like, you have Batman, Affleck's Batman, getting to the point of almost killing him, and he stops because of the Martha thing. I meme about that if you want, but the point is, I feel like that whole arc would have been really so much stronger, in my opinion, I need to stress that, my opinion, if up until that very moment, Batman hadn't killed. So right up until when Batman was about to kill Clark, and Lois is there, he stops himself from killing him, he tosses the spear aside, but he's about to do it. I would have really felt like that would have been exactly what Snyder is saying here, entering that uncomfortable territory, putting your god, if you will, your favorite character in a situation, that a no-win situation almost, or whatever he was saying. But the issue is, he had him kill quite a bit before that in the movie, if you know what I mean. Do you see what I'm trying to say? Like, you have the moment in the Batmobile chase where he freaking gets the guns out and it just like blows these, goons' these henchmen cars up, and they're basically burnt to a crisp now. That's, literal murder amongst multiple people. Multiple human lives are lost. You get what I'm trying to say. So I feel like the whole thing of putting Batman in that situation of killing Superman, or just killing with this topic, is kind of not nullified, but its whole weight is really not robbed from me, but I don't feel as much, because I know I keep saying it, but so much more relevant if the only person he had ever killed or was going to kill or was about to kill would have been Superman in that moment. But it's just, no, like the film kind of, oh no, like this wouldn't be the first time he killed. He literally killed this goon, that goon, there was like 3 or 4 people in that car, and whatever happened there, and then this happened and that happened. So do you see what I mean? That would have been something where it's like walking that line of, oh damn, like that would have been, I don't know how I feel about him almost killing, but he didn't. Okay, that was, you know what, that's a pretty cool story that he almost did that. But no, oh no, forget that. Like, he's murdered a bunch of people before this in the pursuit of that kryptonite, in the pursuit of, going up against Superman. So do you see what I mean? I think that's where Snyder's ideology of portraying and deconstructing these characters, as he said, and making something fresh and new, I respect what he's trying to capture with this vision, but I feel like it kind of unravels itself at the shoelace. Snyder even goes on to say here, they would say, don't do that to Batman, don't put him in a no-win situation, and I agree with him. Like, I'm fine with that. See Batman lose. I've got another example here, Batman Ego, where you really put Batman in this situation of basically seeing him lose, because that whole story, its catalyst is about, Batman after extracting info from this goon, this henchman of the Joker's, about the Joker's, whereabouts, if you will. This henchman therefore knew that he was doomed and that the Joker's revenge would be swift. And so as a result of that, he tried to, if you will, spare his family of the Joker's, God knows what he would have done to his family, by killing his own family himself. And, obviously Batman catches up to him at this point. So not only does this henchman reveal that's Batman basically being like, oh, you're not going to be able to contain the Joker and stop him from killing my family or doing whatever horrible things he would do. So I've spared them that. I've killed them. And then he proceeds to kill himself. And this is all, again, a very psychological story, because it thrusts, imagine being Batman and putting yourself in that situation and knowing that because you interrogated this man the night before, or a few nights before, about the Joker's whereabouts, Joker's now found out about it, and as a result, this man has killed his family and killed himself, and it kind of, even though you weren't in control of that man's actions, you were the catalyst. So even though my example here is a little bit different, it's not like Batman killed or is going to kill in this situation, I still feel like it's almost, in the same ballpark of putting Batman in these no-win situations or very challenging situations. And that's where I kind of meet him halfway there. I'm like, yeah, give us the uncomfortable stories. And maybe there's a better example that I can't even think of from the top of my head. Things like that I am absolutely for, as Snyder is saying here. But I just feel like what he did and why people, this is sparking this whole bigger topic here. It splinters off into so many different mini or micro conversations you can have under the same umbrella. But this is why people had an issue with Batfleck killing, because all while I feel like the kind of story, but like mind map of what he was going for held relevancy and virtue in exploring this with this character because it offers new rich material, it still, I think, crossed the line with regards to what is fundamental with the character, and you could have still had that impactful story of Batman almost killing, as I said earlier, Superman, if you had just also had him not kill the goons and other people in the movie up until that point. And that is just, I think, all while I'm not saying you can't be entertained and enjoy that story, it does bring me to this Neil Gaiman quote that I saw come up on Twitter as a result of people saying this. And obviously, many of you know who Neil Gaiman is, the Sandman and whatnot. Yes, but the fan base are fans, and they like the source material because it's the source material they like. So if you do something else, you risk alienating the fans on a monumental scale. It's not Batman if he's now a news reporter in a yellow trench coat with a pet bat. Exactly, right? So I get what he's saying now, and I don't think it's as black and white as that, because this whole ramble in this video, right, is how I do think you can walk the line of basically alienation. And sometimes in those, when you go and are brave enough, if you will, to pursue stories like that, it could almost deliver the best Batman story ever told, right? But I don't think Snyder achieved that. I think he was playing in like a sandbox of the recipe for that, but the way he executed it, I think as a result, it did alienate a lot of fans, you know. And again, it's a weird situation because, you know, I still enjoy BVS in many ways. There's many issues I have with it, just like there's issues I have with a lot of films. I mean, if you've been watching me for a long time, even the things that I'm the biggest fan of, I have a lot of critiques with. The writing or this, that, and the other, certain directions or choices made. You know, we all have our takes, but I do get how it gave him that idea. Or like, you know, if he does that, what does that mean? I do see how that is relevant to explore. I just feel like there is maybe other ways of going about it that isn't actually alienating. It is challenging a character and putting him in that situation, just not executed in the way that Snyder, I think, almost bluntly went about it, that many people I acknowledge really like. I just feel like as somebody, you know, a Batman fan who does think that Batman doesn't kill, but also would like to entertain what these other perspectives are with where you can actually take Batman, I do think that can be done, but it's just, there's crossing the line of executing that story in the way that I think BVS handled it, that many people enjoy, but there's also walking the line of which I think would serve the story and the character better without alienating. And that's the key thing. I think you can innovate, but never deviate, because that leads to alienate. Maybe if he didn't kill all of the goons and other people in the movie, it would have been something that was maybe a lot more, the way I would put it is palatable, digestible for Batman fans who are against Batman killing, if it was just him, you know, facing this existential threat of this alien and maybe putting an end to him after everything he's been through, losing Robin, you know, experiencing the alien freaking destruction in Metropolis, and then stopping last second, where he still didn't do it, but it put Batman in that situation. So do you agree with me there, or disagree with that and think, nah, I still think this can be done, it should be done, you should deviate from the character in that way and where it goes against one of the fundamental aspects? Or you kind of on the line of what almost Neil Gaiman said here with regards to, you know, Batman's not Batman if he's now a news reporter in a yellow trench coat with a pet bat. And yeah, the equivalent of that would be him killing. I think this is going to be almost not a spicy comment section, but it's going to be a thing where even I catch myself kind of going down this avenue, but then, oh wait, no, going down that avenue of conversation. And this one is, you can go back and forth on it forever. But those are my 2 cents. I do want to make it clear, I respect what Snyder was going for. I like some of the ideas. I don't agree with everything, but I also don't disagree with everything. And you should be able to, after this very rambly video, kind of vibe where I am between all of that with what Snyder's kind of, you know, idea and concept was behind his Dark Knight. And that is, I guess, now what I flip around on you. What do you guys think of this? Hopefully you enjoyed this rambly, conversation about it. I am excited to ramble with you guys down in that comment section. Please try keep it civil. If there's a debate going on about what you think, if you're on the opposite side or if you're more along with me, if you're replying to someone about it, don't call them stupid, don't call them an idiot, don't say they don't get it. We're all just fans here, and let's just have a fun conversation about it, because, I think it is a very interesting conversation to have. But like this video, guys, if you did enjoy it, maybe we'll have some more topical, discussion videos like this, if ever a news topic comes up again like this in the future. Do consider subscribing for more videos like this, of course. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. I'll see you, fellow Bat family, in the next video. Goodbye.